Imagine hearing footsteps in your attic every night. You search the house, you find nothing. Then your keys disappear. A newspaper shows up that nobody ordered. And footprints appear in the snow leading from the forest directly to your farmhouse. But there is one problem. There are no footprints leading back out. A few weeks later, 6 people are murdered, and investigators uncover evidence suggesting the killer may have been living on the property before the murders and stayed there after they were over. This is the mystery of Hinterkaifeck. In 1922, the Hinterkaifeck farm sat alone in the Bavarian countryside, surrounded by woods, separated from its neighbors by long stretches of empty land. It was home to 6 people: Andreas Gruber, his wife, Cecilia, their widowed daughter, Victoria Gabriel, her 2 children, 7-year-old Cecilia and 2-year-old Joseph, and a newly hired maid named Maria Baumgartner. 6 people, 1 isolated farm, and a mystery that has remained unsolved for more than a century. What makes this case so disturbing isn't just the brutality of the murders. It's what happened before them, because the signs were there, and they had been there for weeks. In the days leading up to the murders, Andreas Gruber began telling neighbors that something felt wrong. One day, he discovered footprints in the snow. They led from the edge of the forest directly to the farmhouse, but there were no footprints leaving. None. Whoever walked toward the farm appeared to have never walked away. Then came the noises. At night, Gruber heard footsteps moving across the attic floor. Again and again. He searched multiple times. He found nothing. No person, no animal, no explanation. Yet the sounds continued. Then the family's house keys disappeared. Nobody knew where they went. A strange newspaper appeared on the property. The family had never ordered it. Someone had brought it there. And perhaps most unsettling of all, the family's previous maid had already left the farm months earlier. She claimed the house was haunted. She refused to stay. Whether she sensed something supernatural or something very human, nobody knows. But she was frightened enough to leave. Maria Baumgartner was hired to replace her. She arrived on the farm on March 31st, 1922. It would be her first day there, and her last. That evening, someone began luring members of the family to the barn. One by one, investigators believe Andreas Gruber was the first, then his wife, then Victoria, then young Cecilia. As each entered the barn, they were attacked with a mattock, a heavy farm tool similar to a pickaxe. None survived. Afterward, their bodies were covered with hay. The killer then entered the farmhouse. There, 2-year-old Joseph was murdered in his crib. Maria Baumgartner was killed in her room. 6 people, gone in a single night. The farm fell silent, but nobody noticed. Not immediately. For 4 days, the murders remained undiscovered. Neighbors began to notice something unusual. No one had been seen. Mail was piling up. The family had missed appointments. The farm seemed abandoned. On April 4th, several local men entered the property to investigate. What they found shocked them. Inside the barn lay 4 bodies hidden beneath hay. Inside the farmhouse were 2 more. The entire family had been wiped out, and the mystery was only beginning. Police launched an investigation almost immediately, but this was 1922. There was no DNA testing, no surveillance footage, no modern forensic science. Even worse, the crime scene became contaminated. Curious locals entered the farm before investigators could properly secure it. Potential evidence was lost. Witnesses were questioned. Neighbors were interviewed. Former employees were investigated. Rumors spread through the region. Several suspects emerged. None could be conclusively linked to the crime, and none were ever charged. Then investigators discovered something even more disturbing than the murders themselves. Evidence suggested someone remained on the farm after the killings, not for a few hours, for days. The animals had been fed. The cattle were cared for. Food had been eaten inside the farmhouse. Smoke was reportedly seen rising from the chimney. Someone was maintaining the property. Sleeping there, living there. While 6 bodies remained on the farm, think about that. A killer sitting by the fire, preparing meals, walking through the same rooms, knowing that the people who lived there were dead, just a few steps away. For many investigators, this detail changed everything, because it suggested planning, comfort, familiarity. This didn't look like a random attack. It looked like the actions of someone who knew the farm, someone who knew the family, and perhaps someone who had already been there long before the murders happened. Over the decades, countless theories emerged. Some believed the killer was someone close to the family, a neighbor, a former employee, someone seeking revenge against Andreas Gruber, who was known to be a difficult and controversial man. Others focused on rumors surrounding the family itself, stories of hidden conflicts, dark secrets, and relationships that may have created dangerous enemies. Some suggested robbery as a motive, but little of value appeared to be stolen. Others believed a drifter or wandering criminal could have used the isolated farm as shelter. But one theory continues to stand above the rest. The idea that someone had been secretly living on or near the property before the murders. The attic footsteps, the missing keys, the mysterious newspaper, the footprints in the snow. Together they paint a chilling picture, not of a killer arriving suddenly, but of a killer already there, watching, waiting, learning the family's routines, preparing for the moment to strike. No theory has ever been proven. More than 100 suspects have been investigated over the years. Not one was ever charged. The Hinterkaifeck farm no longer exists. It was demolished years after the murders. Today, only the land remains. Quiet, empty. Almost as if nothing ever happened there. Yet the mystery refuses to disappear. Historians continue to study the case. True crime investigators continue to debate it. New theories still emerge. And the questions remain exactly where they were in 1922. Unanswered. Think about what that means. A family hears footsteps above their heads at night. Their keys disappear. A strange newspaper appears on the property. Footprints lead from the forest to the farmhouse. But never back out. Weeks later, every member of the household is dead. And the evidence suggests the killer didn't run, didn't hide, didn't panic. Instead, they stayed. They fed the animals. They ate the family's food. They kept the fire burning, as if the farm now belonged to them. More than a century later, no one knows who committed the Hinterkaifeck murders. More than 100 suspects have been investigated. Not a single person was ever charged. So, what do you think? Was this a personal act of revenge? A calculated killer who knew the family? Or someone who had already been living inside the farm long before the murders took place? Let me know your theory in the comments below. And if you enjoy real mysteries, unsolved crimes, and stories that still defy explanation, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Because some mysteries never die. And some houses may have been occupied long before anyone realized it. The footprints led to the farm. They never led away.